I get a lot of questions about banking and financing for entrepreneurs in Canada. If you're not born in Canada, but if you're now doing business in Canada, you're here in the right place. Subscribe to our channel, click the button for the alerts. If the content of this video is useful, let us know by clicking the like button. So here's the challenge a lot of people present to us. I have a great business. I just need money to make it happen. What are the assumptions when people tell me that? Listen, we have a great plan. This is the product. It solves a specific problem that nobody else is solving the right way. Or this is the service that we provide. We provide it better than anybody else for this reason, this reason, this reason. This is how we're going to implement it. We have this plan and we have, we're putting these resources together and we have this vision. We already understand this and that about the marketing and the efforts we have to do in the market. We do have very solid track record in our country of origin. So actually we started this business in another place and now we're in Canada. And back home, we serve all these very important companies. We achieve this type of market penetration. So there is, like, in their minds, successful track record already, just in another geography. And then they tell me, and here in Canada, people are interested. I already had meetings with this type of people. They gave me a lot of compliments. They said I'm in the right direction. They say there's a market, so-and-so is interested. But I need money to make it happen. So we're going to show you here when is that you actually can obtain financing in Canada. Okay, so first let's look at how Canadian banks look at your business. Let's understand that. What's in the mind of a Canadian banker when you approach them saying you need money for your business? So here's one thing that's important, right? Banks and other providers of fund, they are actually giving you time and not money. They're not providing money because the money has to come back, right? But they're providing time. They're saying you need the money today, I can provide it to you today, and then you're going to pay me over time. So it's a way to shorten the time or to anticipate the funding. That's how I like to think about it. And also, one very common misunderstanding, people think, oh, the bank has a lot of money and they're greedy, they don't want to lend me money. Well, actually, the banking business is one business where they lend other people's money, right? They take deposits from people, right? Or they have investors if it's not a traditional bank, if it's more like a private lending institution or something like that. But people need to get their money back. So that's why risk management is so important to anybody who's providing financing, because the money they're extending to somebody here, it's somebody else's money that needs to make its way back to repay that person, because bank is a trust business in the end. Give me your money, it's going to be available for you whenever you need it, right? So if I took your money and lent to somebody else, I need to make sure when you come asking for it, I can give it back to you. So this is something that few people actually think through, because people just say, bankers are greedy, they don't want to lend me the money. Well, they're just being careful with other people's money. I actually appreciate when a banker is taking good care of my money, making sure my investments I'm gonna get the money back, because they are being careful in how they lend my money to other people. Anyways, there's two types of financings, right? There's short term, which is I need money for my operation, right? And that can take shape, like, for example, in a more traditional type of lending, overdraft facilities or operating lines, right? And these two types of lending is when you have a credit line. It's like you have a limit with the bank. But this typically requires a track record of profitability from your business. Your business has to have been profitable for some time, and you need to have accounts receivables of a certain size. Maybe you have inventory if you're a manufacturer or distributor, right? But reality is your working capital needs to be bridged by the bank, because your clients pay you more slowly than you have to pay your suppliers, for example, right? Or you have to incur expenses with your personnel, with your payroll, right? So you get this temporary short-term lines, because again, you already made the sale, you already have the accounts receivable, it takes a while for you to get the money back, so the bank lends you money. Sometimes when the business is newer or it's growing very fast, where you still cannot show to the bank the profitability of a level that will sustain a certain size of operating lines, the finance providers have another alternative that typically gets captured in under an umbrella called asset-based lending, right? And yes, they may not look so closely at the profitability, but they will look incredibly closer at the assets themselves that they're lending against. So the accounts receivables, the invoices, the inventory, they'll be very cautious and detailed in how they assess the assets. Because at the end of the day, if the company is not profitable to pay them, any payment would have to come from liquidation of those assets. So the lenders under asset-based lending, they want to make sure that they can get their money back by getting their hands on those assets, okay? So this is for short-term lending. And then for long-term lending, of course, we have things like, oh, I need money to buy a building, or I need money to buy equipment, or to do an expansion, right? So these are more like longer term. This type of lending typically requires both profitability from the business and an asset that supports that. So for example, if you're buying a piece of equipment for $100,000, you probably can lend only a part of that. You can borrow only a part of that from the bank. The bank's not going to lend you usually the whole $100,000 for you to buy that piece of equipment, right? Or they may, if it's in case like of a lease or something like that. But typically, banks like what they call skin in the game. They like when the business puts some money up front, and then the bank comes with even more money. Okay, so how can you have access to these short-term and long-term monies in Canada? Well, very important. We have here our platform called Your Business in Canada. This is how we help you by guiding you through this process. And in the process, you have the company of other foreign-born business owners who are in Canada conducting business. So it's a way for you to do what you're doing as part of a group under our guidance. So click here in the link. We're gonna help you in the process, okay? So let's look then, how can you have access to lending, to borrowing from the bank? Here's the tricky part. A finance provider will only start talking to you when you already started making sales, generating invoices and accounts receivables, AR, right? Why? Because that's what shows that there is market intake for whatever it is that you're selling. Just that wonderful presentation, the evidence that you have been successful in another country, that does not provide enough evidence that here the local market is willing to buy what you're selling. So you need to get the sales going before the banks or anybody else will lend you money. And this is a part that's hard to understand, but it's a reality, right? As you build a profitability track record in Canada, then your options are going to increase a lot. But it all starts, you have to sell first before you go around asking anybody for money, including investors, I assume, okay? What about before making sales then, if I haven't sold anything? So what are my options? Well, any banker is going to tell you, first, it has to be equity. Your money, money from investors, right? Equity is not lending, it's 100% risk. Here's the money, and I hope we get paid because I understand the industry, I trust you, I understand the mechanics, so I believe I'm gonna get it back, but there's no recourse. Nobody can take anything as guaranteed when they're investing money with you, right? That's equity money. That's your first option. If you need money but you haven't made sales yet, you need to find investors or you need to put more of your own money. Another thing you could do, and that you can do even before having sales in Canada, you can go for incentive programs. And that only applies if you are doing some type of innovation in Canada. There's great programs where the government or any other agency who's providing the funds, you will be able to leverage the money that you put in. But you have to put some money. It works in a multiplicative way as opposed to an additive way. What do I mean by that? If you put 0, you're gonna get 0. If you put 10, you may get 10, you may get 15, you may get 5, depending on the program. But you have to put some money, but then you can get much more money to do the whole project. What I'm trying to tell you here is, for you who are a foreign-born business person trying to do business in Canada, and if you need money from anybody, you need to invest first. There's really no other way around that, right? There's 2 videos here that can be useful for you in this journey. Thank you.